is George Takei. George, thank you very much for joining us this week.
You were inviting me.
I was really I've been wanting to hear what you have to say about what happened Saturday night all week. I was really struck by your piece in the Daily Beast, which takes this conversation a step further that I hadn't anticipated. The incredible organizational skills of this community that have seen startlingly fast change. The kinds of changes that we were used to waiting decades to watch that happened in much shorter periods of time.
Well, actually, it has been decades. It's been almost 50 years since Stonewall. But that galvanized the community. And then we had another galvanizing event, the AIDS crisis. And then we had no help on that, so we really had to organize, and organizations were formed. We challenged, and there were activists that were gotten together, organized, and then there was Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and we challenged that, and we prevailed. And then there was marriage equality, and we challenged that, and just a year from this month, June, the Supreme Court ruled that marriage equality is the rule of the land from coast to coast, border to border. So we have that organized infrastructure of organized activist groups, and we have people that have been energized by that. And what we here now are faced with is the First Amendment right is what the people at the Pulse were celebrating.
Yes.
Because the right to assembly, the right to association, and President Obama referred to the Pulse as a place of empowerment and solidarity, and that is what it was. But the First Amendment also has a bedrock right, the freedom of speech, freedom of religion. But even those bedrock rights have restraints on them. In a crowded theater, we can't yell fire because there are consequences to that. There will be damages created by an injury to other people. We don't have the right to slander someone carelessly, and there are consequences to that. And now on the Second Amendment, there is no restraint on the most dangerous kind of so-called right. When terrorists can just simply buy a gun, terrorists who've been on the watch list, who can't board a plane, can stroll out and buy a car. Buy a weapon of mass destruction. And so we've got to galvanize ourselves, and we will work in concert with other people who equally are galvanized. The parents of Newtown, the relatives of the people that were slaughtered at Charleston and in San Bernardino. So we have a past experience of dealing with issues, debating it, and actively engaging. There's some people that are discussing a march on Washington. So we are going to get this done, and I think at long last we will get some kind of restraints on the easy access to semi-automatic weapons.
Let's listen to something that Donald Trump said on Monday. This is, day and a half after we discovered what happened in Orlando. Let's listen to this.
Ask yourself, who is really the friend of women and the LB and LGBT community? Donald Trump with actions or Hillary Clinton with her words?
Do you have an answer for Donald Trump?
He is two-faced. He is a friend of the LGBT community, he says. I had lunch with them. This was a few years ago when New York did not have marriage equality, to discuss marriage equality. He was absolutely unmoving. I told him, you're a businessman, you would benefit as a businessman by having marriage equality in New York State, because people love to come to New York. They'll spend money, they'll stay in your hotels, eat in your restaurants, have their weddings in the banquet rooms. And he said, yes, you're absolutely right, but I believe in traditional marriage. What occurred to me at that time, but I was silent on it, was getting married 3 times is not traditional marriage. So, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He just says things off the cuff. He's winging it.
Yeah. What would you say to young people who now are wondering whether they couldn't go out Saturday night around this country and go to these places that they have previously believed are safe places?
It is no longer safe. It's a place where we're fearful. I remember when I, as a teenager, first went to my first gay bar, I had a lot of trepidations. It was the unknown, but it was once I got in there and the atmosphere and the fact that I could set down my guard and relax, it was liberating. But now that place of liberation, freedom, of joyous celebration, expressing our First Amendment rights to assembly and association, has become a place where we are very fearful. That's been taken away from us because we have no restraints on the Second Amendment and easy access. It's the most irrational thing for mentally unstable people, where people are have a record of spousal abuse. I think it's time that we have Second Amendment restraints as we have on our First Amendment rights.
George Takei, thank you very much for joining us tonight. You might want to stay around the studio. We're going to play later this song that was written this week, simply entitled Pulse. The songwriters are going to join us. It is a beautiful thing. George, thank you again.
I will stay and listen.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. We'll be right back.